Shweta Singh is also joining us from Tianjin. Shweta, quickly coming to you to get a sense of what one can expect as far as the Modi-Xi bilateral is concerned. That is to happen tomorrow. What's on the agenda?
Well, if we specifically want to talk about the agenda, there's no agenda as such that is being shared by either of the two sides. And definitely there are indications that it is not to be seen as a bilateral, but as prime ministers meeting with the host nation of a multilateral platform. But since India and China have been moving ahead as far as defense concerns remain, or as far as trade talks go, as far as connectivity is concerned, we could imagine that something positive, at least the beginning of something positive, could come out of it.
All right, Shweta, stay on with us. I want to come back to Gaurav because Gaurav, while you talk about the trade aspect, and we will harp on that in greater detail, but the border situation is something I'm wanting to understand more. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit coming after 7 years, how is this to impact the situation at the LAC, and how much of that will figure as part of the bilateral that is to happen between India and China? Most importantly, can there be a realistic reset of ties between the two nations when it comes to the border situation?
So reset may be a long way off. There's a thaw, yes. A reset, no. And for a reset to happen, will there be a restoration of the April-May 2020 situation is still a long way off. What's the current situation along the line of actual control after the 2020 Galwan and Pengong standoff, which actually escalated then to multiple friction points? So post the summit at Kazan, which I was reporting from ground zero in Russia, both the Chinese president and the Indian Prime Minister, they decided that there will be forward movement, which led to disengagement at the remaining two friction points. There were multiple friction points along the line of actual control. In most friction points, while disengagement had already happened, but here there was a strategic, nod that was required from the heads of state and government for the disengagement to happen. So while the troops are now no longer in eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation, there is a buffer zone of sorts that's been created, and that buffer zone of sorts indicates that the Chinese side moves back a little, the Indian side moves back a little, and they do not, come face to face. There'll be new confidence building measures. There'll be new border mechanisms that will be put in place. There is some talk that's happening on what those new confidence building measures can be. That is being decided not just at the level of the SRs or the special representatives on the boundary. It's Wang Yi on the Chinese side, member of the Politburo, External Affairs Minister of China, and the special representative on boundary talks, and Ajit Doval on the Indian side. And you have the External Affairs Ministers level dialogue that's happening. You also have dialogue that's happening at the level of border commanders, the co-commander on the Indian side and the Chinese commander on the Chinese side. So there are some initial steps that are being taken, not yet to the level of confidence where the 50,000 plus troops that are deployed on either sides can be withdrawn. A lot of infrastructure has also been created, both by India and by China in Tibet. India has it in Ladakh. You have additional airfields, additional bridges, additional soldiers deployed, their billets, their barracks. A lot of that has now been created. Now, do those constructions now end up becoming permanent, given the cold freeze in the relationship between the two countries? Will there be some thaw in the middle sector? What about Arunachal Pradesh? So there are multiple levels at which the dialogue is taking place. However, no de-escalation just as yet, and no de-induction just as yet. So de-escalation perhaps is something that they will talk about. What does de-escalation mean? That you move the heavier weapons back to its peacetime areas. Right now you have your rockets and your missiles and your heavy artillery that's deployed there. Your tanks are deployed there. Can they be moved back? Now again, there's a China can bring their troops in much faster because they are on a plateau. For India to move them in the mountains, it takes more time. So one, it has to be equal and mutual security guarantees have to be put in place. So China has to move back even further than India because China can redeploy faster. It would take more time for India to redeploy. Many complex factors that are being put in place. For that, a mechanism is being put in place. This dialogue that happens at the level of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping is to give that strategic direction to that dialogue to take place. Trade, economic cooperation, people to people, the Kailash-Mansarovar Yatra has recently resumed, direct flights are resuming. So some steps are being taken. Trade deficit and imbalance, how does that get addressed? Those are some issues, the higher direction for which comes now, and then subsequently you'll have ministers and interlocutors who will take it forward at various levels.
Right, Gaurav, stay on. I want to, in fact, take the same point to Shweta and her understanding on her interactions with the Chinese there. Shweta, by and large, while Gaurav explains the situation at the LAC, lot of factors that need to be addressed. And the trust deficit that has been there as far as India and China are concerned. How much can the two really work together and come and find a middle ground?
Yes, why not? I think everybody in India and everyone in China will be wanting that to happen. See, China has started with constantly stressing on the fact that confidence building measures from the side of China have started. They talk about the Kailash-Mansarovar Yatra, which has resumed after a long gap this year. And they're trying everything to make it a success, taking care of the devotees who reach there. So these are certain things that can be dismissed as optics, or if you look at the constant talks that are going on between the defense of both sides, as well as the special representative talks, I think it won't be wrong to assume that it will be the beginning of something very positive in India-China relations.